Hi, this is Ing Venning for Conscious Mosaic, which is my arts analysis channel on a lovely, overcast, rainy day. Today I want to talk about the Candy Cadet stories from Five Nights at Freddy's 6, which is the Pizzeria Simulator game. So, a quick word on some emotions and themes in the Five Nights at Freddy's games in general. We have twisted innocence. So, there are things that seem happy and innocent and humorous. The colorful singing animatronics, the humor of some of the stories in the games, like the Mr. Hippo story and a few others from Custom Night. The festive, bright, colorful nature of the pizzerias where horrible things happen and people are murdered, so twisted innocence comes up again and again. And this plays into the overall theme in these games. These are horror games, and they are very, very frightful. I think another thing that makes them frightful, besides just the looking at how fear and anger and despair occur to children, is this sense of limited resources, which you have. These are time management horror games, so you have limited time. You have limited resources in terms of like money, like in the, not in all the games, but in the Pizzeria Simulator game, you have a limited number of tokens to spend. I think that's the capital in game. Also, you have this sense of doomed compassion where over and over people try to make compassionate choices, especially in terms of utilitarianism, which is this idea of achieving the greatest good for the greatest number. And we'll see this in these Candy Cadet stories, where what ends up happening is that no one is happy. And so let's look at the Candy Cadet stories. The Candy Cadet itself, by the way, is a robot, and we associate robots with a lack of emotion, so that's important. Now, it's dressed up in bright colors, and it gives you candy. And by the way, candy is colorful and tasty, but it doesn't have any nutritional value, so that may play into the theme of twisted innocence. The stories themselves, and also limited resources, I should mention, because you have to keep giving tokens to Candy Cadet in order to get all these stories, such that you probably won't be able to buy some of the other stuff that you need in the game if you are spending tokens on these stories. And in that sense, you're spending limited resources to get stories that are about the doom of having limited resources when you try to make compassionate choices. So the stories themselves, I don't believe they occur in any particular order. I think you just get a random story when you meet the conditions in the game. But let's start with the story of the man and the orphans. So he wants to make these orphans happy, so he chooses to adopt all of them, and he brings all five of them together in his one home. He is afraid that a burglar will kill them, but by bringing them all together, he makes them all a target for the burglar in one home. There are limited resources in this world, so he has to go out and get food for everyone. And while he's away getting food, right, he has limited. They have limited food and they have limited time, so he has to spend time getting food. And while he's away, the burglar comes and kills all five children. And so he ends up, because he can only afford one coffin, there's limited resources again. He stitches them all together. The five come together as one and buries them. Now, this five coming together as one in all these stories, that is a symbol of doomed compassion, attempt at utilitarian compassion, at saving everyone that ends in no one being saved. And that happens in all these stories. And it's not even when he's stitching them all together. Everyone is doomed at the point that he brings all five orphans together in one home. So as early as that happens in the story, they're all doomed because the burglar is going to kill all of them. Okay. In the next story, we have a young woman trapped in a room with a furnace and five keys, but she can only leave the room with one key. The keys open doors in the building where children are trapped, and she can only only save one of them. But what she decides to attempt is to melt all the keys together to form a sort of master key, and to use that master key to save all of them. And in making this attempt to save all of them, she's able to save none of them. The key doesn't work on any of the doors, and they all die. So again, limited resources, the number of keys, and doomed utilitarian compassion, an attempt to save everyone saves no one. Okay. Finally, we have the story of the boy with the snake and the kittens. He cannot make the decision to get rid of the snake, but he can't make the decision to feed one of the kittens to the snake in the hope that that satisfies it. So it ends up eating all of them. He cuts the snake open, stitches them together, and puts them back in their shoebox. So again, limited resources, five coming together as one as a symbol of doomed utilitarian compassion. His attempt to be compassionate to, in this case, instead of making a choice, because the man with the orphans and the woman with the quiche, they made a choice to attempt utilitarian compassion. But in this case, the boy makes no decision. He doesn't get rid of the snake. He doesn't feed any of the kittens to it. But that's his lack of a choice. His inability to choose is what he's trying to do to create a scenario of compassion. In trying to save everyone, no one is saved and everyone is doomed in this case once again. So this happens in all three of these stories, and I think is indicative of the Five Nights at Freddy's world overall. We end up with cautionary tales about a world in which no choice or a choice for compassion toward everyone ends up in doom. We can infer, although we don't know directly in these stories, that if a decision had been made, if instead of not deciding or deciding to save everyone, if a decision had been made to save one orphan or one kitten or one child, that perhaps what would have happened is, although the other four would have died, one would have been saved, and perhaps that's the best scenario that could have been achieved. But think about the kind of person that we'd have to be, or the man or the woman or the boy would have to be to achieve that. They would have to understand that the world that they live in is a doomed world where utilitarianism can't work, where in many cases compassion itself can't work, and a world of limited resources where they only have so much time, so much money, maybe even so much compassion to give, that this choice to save one, it's a person, it's not someone who's innocent that can make that choice, but someone who understands the world to be a place that is full of despair and fear and doom. So it really tells you about the kind of people we need to be. And this tells us something about our own world, because in many scenarios in our world, we cannot choose to save everyone. And we definitely have limited resources in the world we live in, limited time, limited other resources, limited physical goods or money or other things like that. So this really, Five Nights at Freddy in this way gives us a laboratory in which to experiment with the world that is often very frightening and sorrowful. And that's sad and that's fearful, but it's very interesting that we have that laboratory. And I'm grateful for these games, because I think one of the ways these games are so powerful is that they let us experiment in that kind of a world that parallels our own in many ways. If you have other comments about the Candy Cadet stories or other aspects of Five Nights at Freddy's, please let me know. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Help me grow this channel, because I want to bring really high quality analysis of arts to you through this vehicle. If you think that you would like to do an interview or a video for this channel, if you would like to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's or other games, if you'd like to talk about film, visual arts, music, literature, whatever it might be, I would welcome input from other people. You can contact me at ing@ingvenning.com. I'll put my email and my website below. I'll also put a link to to a couple of people that have very kindly brought the Candy Cadet stories together in YouTube videos if you want to watch and listen to all those stories. So thank you so much for listening, and join me in my efforts if you'd like to analyze arts and let people know that arts are wonderful and powerful and can teach us so much about our lives. And have a fantastic day.